So this morning, of course, we also have the Ask Swami question answer session. We get questions from all over the world and we select a few of those questions, and some of those questions are put at this session. And also the live audience here. You're also welcome to ask questions. Just raise your hand, come up here, and then ask the question. You have to ask it in the microphone because they are recording it and it's going to be uploaded onto YouTube. So, Diane, could we have the first question?
Yes, the first question comes from Adam in Atlanta, Georgia, who has a question about spiritual doubt. And he charted for you in his email that...
Just a minute, are you getting the microphone? Okay. Yes.
His email, his 4-page email.
4 pages, oh my
yes,
God.
that charted basically his path from his upbringing in a Protestant household through atheism, Buddhism, and meditation. And then he had a waning of belief and then took 2 trips to India, after which he returned to meditation and sacred texts, but then was suddenly overwhelmed by doubt in God, Guru, and meditation. So his question to you is, in what way is doubt a part of spiritual practice? I can't help recall the Apostle Thomas, referred to as Doubting Thomas, who questioned the foretold resurrection of Christ. Jesus said, "Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed." I very much identify with Thomas in that I am seeking proof of what I am not sure, and yet Thomas became one of Jesus's more prolific disciples. So I suppose that all is not lost.
All right, all is certainly not lost. And thank you for this, a beautiful summary of a 4-page email. Yes, but it's a very good question. In general, religious life is based on faith. In fact, the term used for religion in this country is faith. What is your faith? What faith do you subscribe to? I do not subscribe to any faith. So faith has become synonymous with religion, though it is not. Faith is not synonymous with religion, but it has become so in our popular usage. Now it follows, wherever you are moving ahead based on faith, belief, shraddha, there will also be the danger of doubt. If you base yourself on faith, the crack in the foundation is always doubt. So doubt is an occupational hazard if your religion is based on faith. Now, is all lost? Are we always going to be subject to doubt? You know, there is a saying that in India we believe in karma vada, the law of karma. Good karma leads to punya, merit, and that leads to happiness. Lot of good karma leads to deep faith in the existence of God. So if I have a lot of doubt, I have to ascribe it to my bad karma in past lives. But then again, not all is lost. Not all is lost. Let me take a look at this question from the point of view of Advaita Vedanta. What Advaita Vedanta says is, that thou art, tat tvamasi. In the Chandogya Upanishad, you find it repeated 9 times. The Guru is telling the student, actually it's a father and son. Father is teaching the son, that thou art, tat tvam asi. That standing for God. The primary meaning of the word tat there stands for Saguna Brahman. The closest we can get in English is God. And tvam, you, stands for the individual, us, the individual being. And Vedanta asserts something dramatic, that thou art, you in reality are nothing different from the reality of God. I mean, Meister Eckhart puts it so beautifully. The ground of my soul and the ground of God are one and the same. He says, ground of God, the ground of my soul. That ground is in Vedanta what we were speaking about, existence, consciousness, bliss. There you and the divine are same. But anyway, let's go a little broader afield and look at the whole sphere of religion through the lens of that thou art. In spiritual life, in spiritual striving, there are 2 approaches possible, depending upon your mental makeup. I have seen in Belur Math, in the monastery, when young people come to become monks, we ask them, why have you become a monk? What are you looking for? And you generally get two kinds of answers. One kind is, I am searching for God. I believe that God exists. I believe God can be experienced. So I'm trying to find God. I'm searching for God. I'm looking for God. Seeking God. In terms of that frame, that thou art, what is this person seeking? That reality, the reality which he believes is the reality of this universe. There is another kind of spiritual striving. Another group of young people, they say, God is good, fine, very good, but we are not so much interested in that as much as ourselves. Who am I? What am I? What's the meaning of life? Is there an unchanging, immortal reality, as Vedanta asserts? What is the secret here? What's going on here? That's the striving. So that kind of approach is thou-centered approach. Tvam, you. And these are two different approaches, not only at the individual level, but when you go further afield and look at religions of the world, you notice something dramatic. There are these two kinds of religion. Most obvious, think about, say, in Hinduism, you have a range, the worship of the Divine Mother, worship of Krishna or Rama or Shiva or Vishnu, or God in Christianity or Allah in Islam, the Father in heaven, in the Abrahamic traditions. All of these are what kind of religious tradition? That-centered, God-centered religions. You may say, is there any other kind of religion? And immediately the answer comes to you. For example, Buddhism is an example where they either do not talk about God, or some Buddhist philosophers openly deny the existence of some kind of eternal creator God. Then what are they doing? They're investigating the self. They're looking inwards to see what is the mystery of life here. How can we overcome suffering at this individual level? So an investigation into the self. Not only Buddhism. In Hinduism, if you look at Sankhya philosophy, if you look at the Patanjali Yoga also speaks about God, but in a marginal fashion. God is not the center of Patanjali Yoga. You are the center of Patanjali Yoga. Sankhya, Yoga, if you look at Jainism, so there are religions and religious paths which are self-enquiry, which are dealing with that thou art, the thou-centered, centered on the individual person. And if you look at these religions, there are distinct differences between that. The God-centered religions are mostly devotional, mostly dualistic. There will be temples and churches, and there will be rituals and songs. All of them they're primary festivals. So they are very much centered around God. The Tao-centered religions are more meditative, more introverted, more philosophical. They tend to be more austere, maybe sometimes more monastic. I'm generalizing here. You can find ritual and music in plenty in Buddhism. You can. But the thrust is this way. Another point. Each of these approaches, God-centered and self-enquiry, the individual-centered, both of them, I'm not saying self-centered because it makes a different meaning to be self-centered. Both of them have advantages and disadvantages. Now we come to the question, doubt. You see, it's in a God-centered religion, the big problem is doubt. The big problem is doubt. Does God exist? In all these God-centered religions, you will find enormous attempts and resources devoted to proving the existence of God. St. Thomas Aquinas in his The 5 Ways of Establishing an Existence of God, or the great Nayayika, Udayanacharya, in his masterpiece, Nyaya Kusumanjali, he gives 9 proofs of the existence of God. And some people become very interested. Are there proofs of the existence of God? Of course there are. If you look it up, there are proofs of the existence of God. Now Google is there. Right now I think you can Google it. But don't be in a hurry. You will be underwhelmed by those proofs of the existence of God, not overwhelmed. If you believe in the existence of God already, you will find, okay, these are nice. If you don't believe in the existence of God, you will not be convinced by those proofs. In fact, one famous um, philosopher, I think Appia, or Anthony Kenny, I think, he says that he became a philosopher, he was training to be a minister. And in his theological studies, he came across the proofs of the existence of God. After reading the proofs of existence of God, he decided not to become a minister. He became a philosopher instead. So that's what the proofs of existence of God did. So there's an enormous attempt to justify the existence of God, and always there will be doubt. Sometimes more, sometimes less, sometimes you will not be afflicted with doubt, sometimes you will be really afflicted with doubt, because it is based on belief, based on faith. But look at the other religion, Buddhism or yoga or Sankhya. Look, I have not brought Advaita Vedanta into it yet. There's a reason why. The other kind of approach is where you're investigating the self. That doubt does not come in, because our own existence is beyond doubt. Who doubts that we exist? That I exist, nobody doubts it. My nature, what kind of existence it is. The Buddhist may doubt whether there is a permanent soul. Often they say, but the Buddhists say that there is no soul. Buddhist does not say there is no soul. This is what appears to be the self has a transitory, momentary nature. That's what the Buddhist comes to conclusion. But that there is an experience of existing. I am. This nobody can doubt reasonably. If you do doubt it, though you are the one who is doubting your own existence. If you exist, therefore you can doubt your existence. Shankaracharya says in one of his commentaries, Yaeva tasya nirakarta tasyaiva atmasa. The one who denies the existence of the self, it is the self of the very denier. How can you deny that you exist when you are denying it? It means you exist. So our own existence is not subject to the kind of doubt he's talking about. So is this a problem-free approach, Buddhism or Sankhya or yoga? No, not at all. There are special problems in this path too. You may say that I have no doubt about my own existence. Correct, but that doesn't help me. I exist, but I have a miserable existence. That is the whole problem. I have so much suffering, I have so much problems in life, so many uncertainties, meaninglessness, so many problems in life. So our own existence, though it is not subject to doubt, but it is subject to limitation and suffering and trouble. It's not a solution in itself. That we exist is not a solution. Now what Vedanta does, and look at the other side, the God-centered religions, they don't have this trouble. God, if he, she, it exists, has no trouble at all. God is omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. So God has no trouble. God has no problem at all. God is infinite, if he exists. So on that centered religion, there is no problem, because God, if exists, has no problem at all. But there is doubt. On the thou-centered religion, there is no problem of doubt, but there is a problem of limitation, of suffering. That's what Buddha was inquiring. There is suffering, how can we get out of suffering? Now look at what Advaita Vedanta does. Vedanta takes the certitude, the certainty of your own existence, and combines it with the infinity of God. Our own existence is demonstrated to be an infinite, unlimited existence. That's the track that Advaita Vedanta takes up. It takes you into investigation of the self, that you exist without any doubt, and your own existence is investigated, and the apparent limitations, you will find all the limitations are limitation of the body, a limitation of the mind, limitations of our social circumstances. But then Advaita Vedanta points out to you there is something in you, your existence itself, your awareness itself, Sat Chit Ananda. That's the whole task of Advaita Vedanta. It will point out in your own existence, you will discover infinitude. You'll discover infinitude. Combining that and thou. The whole point is the certainty of your existence combined with the infinitude of God. So I become an infinite existence, and hence overcome the limitations of my individual existence. Hence overcome the doubts related to God's existence. So that's the approach taken by Advaita Vedanta. The doubt which he talks about, does God exist? In the Himalayas, once somebody asked this question to a Swami, give me an irrefutable proof of the existence of God. Not the refutable proofs, an irrefutable proof of the existence of God. And that Swami replied, why? Your own existence. In Hindi, ईश्वर का अस्तित्व में अकाट्य प्रमाण दीजिए. And the answer was, आपका अपना अस्तित्व. That makes sense only when you see God in terms of Advaita Vedanta, because your own existence and God's existence are one and the same. That non-dualistic intuition, when Eckhart says, the ground of God and the ground of my soul are one and the same thing. When Saint Catherine of Genoa, she says, in myself, my me is God, and in me there is nothing else but God. So that oneness, that identity, there is no doubt. It's interesting that there are these two aspects of religion. Doubt is one aspect of religion. You see, when an atheist, who is an atheist? An atheist is a person who doubts the existence of, who is clear that there is no God. An agnostic is a person who doubts the existence of God. But look, both of them are speaking about the God-centered religion. Isn't it true? Every atheist who goes and attacks, whether it's Daniel Dennett or Christopher Hitchens or Richard Dawkins in our day-to-day, they're attacking the God-centered religion, the conception of God. So always it's open to doubt. But you cannot prove that you do not exist. Nobody can attack that conception. Yes, is that existence infinite, truly infinite? That's the task that Advaita Vedanta sets out. So doubt is one side of religion. The other side of religion, it's a beautiful quote from Wittgenstein. He says, religion is the quest for absolute safety, for absolute certainty. He says it's a quest for absolute security. That's a beautiful way of putting it. Religion is the quest for absolute security. I think we'll leave it at that. It's a Vedantic approach to doubt. Yes. Is there a question from the live audience? Anybody? Yeah. Yes, there's a question. Would you come forward? Come. Tell us your name and ask the question. Use the microphone.
No, Swami. My name is Simar. I have a question from I feel like day-to-day life. So from my upbringing, the way I've been brought up, and the way I've seen it is you grow up, you study, you get to a good job, and you basically get into that life where, and I see it today, like when you are in today's modern world, in corporate world or wherever you are, there is a lot of attention on, like, you need to be very passionate about what you're doing.
Speak in the microphone, yes.
Yeah, you need to be passionate about what you're doing. There should be immense desire, and you should be always thinking about, your work. Right. So, and I feel like if I need to pay actually a lot of attention to, bring up any innovation, to bring up new things, right? A lot of energy goes in there.
Yes.
But then if I have to focus on spiritual side, it also need immense amount of energy and focus and attention. And I feel like if I devote a lot of my time and attention here, I'm somewhere sacrificing on my work.
Yes.
And where I feel like I might not be progressing as much I could have if I'm focused more there.
Yes.
So it brings me into that dilemma of where should I and how should I devote my energy?
Energies, yes. It's an important question. And so you are Swami, you are a monk in a monastery. So you can devote all your energy to realizing God. But we are not monks in monasteries or nuns in nunneries. We are living out there in Manhattan, on Wall Street. So there's a whole samsara to take care of. The first and foremost thing is, what do I want? I'll give you the answer to your question later. But first of all, we must be very clear about what we want. Let us first of all internally tell ourselves, ascertain our identity as spiritual seekers. See, you're all here, you must be spiritual seekers in some way or the other. In some way. Some may be part of an established and organized religion, some may not be. But you're all spiritual seekers in some sense. Otherwise, why would you come here on a perfectly good Sunday morning? You'll be out there with those tourists or something like, there's so many ways of engaging yourself. So we are spiritual seekers, but we need to admit it to ourselves. Now that does not solve the problem, because the problem still remains that there is the world and there is spiritual life. Here is Vivekananda's speciality. In the introduction to the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Sister Nivedita has written a wonderful introduction, few pages, very powerful, beautiful introduction. We are celebrating 150 years of the birth of Sister Nivedita. She says that the Upanishads, Vedanta, Upanishads and Gita, the teachings of Vedanta are ancient. And they would have been there even if our master had not come. By our master, she means Vivekananda, because Vivekananda was her guru. Even if he had not come, these teachings would have been there. So what is the speciality of Vivekananda? What did he give? And he says, here is the speciality of Vivekananda. Here is the crowning achievement of our master. He said that the one and the many are the same reality, perceived by different spiritual seekers at different levels of spiritual evolution. Now, what does that mean? It means that which you are trying to realize in spiritual life, God realization, Brahman, enlightenment, and that which you confront with your eyes open, samsara, job, family, they are not two different realities. This has to be understood. Often, the great problem in our spiritual life is exactly what you have said. Here is God and here is the world. I have limited time and energy. If I see it in that paradigm, then almost always God will lose. Yes. Why will God lose? Because when you open your eyes, when you look around from the morning, what do you see? You see the world. You see people, you see a family, you see jobs, you see problems. That's the world. That's called samsara. You do not see God. God remains a matter of theory, a matter of faith, a matter of conjecture. And very soon, the practices devoted for God realization, they're pushed into a corner. And they become mechanical, they diminish, they become powerless. Because it's an important principle. What we think to be real, our attention always goes there. Reality draws our attention, time and energy. Imagine, we get so involved in the dream. Why do we get involved in the dream? It's because we do not recognize the dream to be a dream. For the time being, when we see the dream, Shankaracharya says, Swakale Satyavad Bhati. When there is a dream, during the period of the dream, it seems to be real. Because it seems to be real, it draws our attention. The moment you get up and you say, oh, it was a dream, here is the reality. That was a dream. All your attention, energy comes to this, and you dismiss whatever you saw in the dream as just some appearance. Now, for us, this is the problem. This world has all the reality, and God has an assumed reality, an attributed reality, something based on faith. The same problem of doubt. It's infected with doubt, and it becomes weak, therefore. Now, Vivekananda strikes at the root of this problem. The solution is a very powerful and radical solution. He says there are not two realities. There are not two realities. There is only one reality. Brahman, misunderstood, is the world. The world right now, this world, correctly understood, properly appreciated, is none other than Brahman. What an incredible statement. Where is God? God is right here. When do we get God? After death? No, right now. And in what? In everything. In yourself. In that case, it begs a question, if God is right here, right now, and in everybody, in myself also, then it should be evident to me. And Advaita Vedanta says it is evident to you. You are missing it. The problem is not that you have to find God somewhere else. God is right here. It is hidden by our ignorance. We don't know what to look for. Advaita Vedanta does not give you an unknown God. A God which is continuously revealed. Advaita points it out to you. Swami Vivekananda's one of his most powerful lectures in this country was called The Open Secret. I think he gave it in London, in Jnana Yoga lectures. The Open Secret. It's a secret, no doubt about it. That's why we don't know it. But it's not a hidden secret. It's an open secret. Upon enlightenment, what will our realization be? Oh, it was not there. Now I have it. No, our realization will be, it was always there. Oh my God, I never saw it. I never realized it. It is always completely evident. It's as evident as the sun shining in the sky, more so. Sri Ramakrishna, when Narendranath asked him, that, have you seen God? He says, yes, just as I see you, even more clearly. What does that mean, even more clearly than I see you? So it is this very reality. We have no time to go into the depths of it, but Advaita Vedanta shows us in our experience right now, in this experience, what is God. One example, Drigdrishya Viveka, the 20th verse. Asti bhati priyam rupam namam cheti angsha panchakam adya trayam brahma rupam jagat rupam tatodvayam. In every experience you have, these are the constituents: isness, existence; appearance, in consciousness; and bliss, happiness; and a name and a form you see around you. Name and form belong to samsara, existence, appearance or consciousness, and bliss are God, are Brahman. And it is coming everywhere, in every experience. The Kena Upanishad says, Pratibodha viditam matam. In every experience when you find God, you are enlightened. Not only in God experience, not only in samadhi, not only in a vision of God. In every experience, you're looking at the world, you will find God. If this is so, you will say it's not so for us right now. True. But if the fact is that Brahman is right here, you see, we are mistaking the rope for a snake, the classic Advaitic example. Mistaking the rope for a snake. Now let me ask you a question. You're seeing a snake. It's really a rope. Even when you're seeing the snake, where is the rope? Where is the rope? Right there. You don't seem sure about it. Right there. Where you are seeing the snake, the rope must be right there. If I tell you the reality of this altar is wood, what do I touch? Wood. I'm touching the wood here. It's right here. If the reality of this world is Brahman, if that is so, actually so, then where is Brahman? Right here. In whom is Brahman? In everybody. Vedanta shows us how to appreciate that. In that case, whatever you do in life, whether it's in Vedanta society, in a temple, or in your corporate office, you are actually dealing with God. Vivekananda said, never approach anything except as God. Never approach anything except as God. You require a whole of Vedanta to actually understand this. But when you understand it, it's liberating, it's thrilling, it's electrifying. Neither you nor I have seen or experienced anything other than God all our lives, but we know it not. Vivekananda says. In that case, what follows? What is the relevance to your question? The relevance is this. Sister Nivedita says, if that is so, henceforth, no division between the sacred and the secular. She says, to have and hold is as stern a trust is to renounce and quit. As to renounce and quit. Become a sannyasi, run away to the Himalayas and meditate on God. You're in quest of God. You are right here in the middle of your life. You can equally well be, or even better be, in quest of God. Arjuna was asked to do his duty. He wanted to run away from that. He said, if you want to realize God, then again you have to do this. But now convert it into spiritual practice. How do you convert it into spiritual practice? Your corporate work. First of all, the idea must be clear that this is not different and God is not something different. I can find it here itself. Now, how can I convert this into spiritual practice? Is it not true that even in corporate work, let's leave spiritual practice alone for a while, even the work that you're doing in the corporate office, people do it for different reasons. Some are doing it for the money. Some are doing it for self-actualization. They want to be a better person. Some are doing it to express their talents. Some are trying to find satisfaction and fulfillment in it. Some, maybe the proprietor of the company, maybe the founder, if it's a small startup, it's an act of creativity, creation for that person, not to make money as such. It could be for different reasons altogether. Some might be just there for the company of other people. Doing a job because I like it. This is like my extended family. Somebody said, in this day and age when families have broken up, communities have broken up, people migrate all over the world, it is the corporations which take the place of families. Peter Drucker, he says. Many of the responsibilities which were fulfilled by family and community earlier are now, they have to be fulfilled by the corporation. And the corporation will say, no, no, we don't have that liability. We are limited liability. And Peter Drucker, none other than the greatest management guru of this age, he says a true leader, he calls it a servant leader, he says a true servant leader is somebody who has unlimited liability. Mentally, spiritually at least. So anyway, that work itself is done by different people for different reasons. You can do it for God realization. Never approach anything except as God. Sri Ramakrishna says, Shiva Jnani Jiva Seva. Serve all beings in the knowledge that they are none other than God. Shiva Jnani, knowing them to be Shiva, not imagining them, not thinking them to be Shiva, knowing that they are Shiva. If Vedanta is at all true, you can start with faith. You say, I don't get it. You may get it, but I don't get it. All right. They say in Uttarakhand, Jano ya mano. Either you realize it or you believe it. There are only two paths to religion. Again, these questions are connected actually. Two paths to religion. Either you start with faith or you realize it. If you cannot realize it, if it's not true to you, take it on faith for a while at least till it becomes clear to you. So the people you deal with, they are none other than God. The work that you do is a worship of God. And who are you? Your own reality is Brahman. You are dealing with Brahman all the time. Mental attitude. You don't have to tell your boss that or your client that. They'll think you're weird. This is a question which has to be answered. There are only two questions in life, spiritual life. How do I realize God? We think that's the only question. No, no, no. What do I do with my life? Look at the Gospel of Ramakrishna. In the second meeting, M, the author of the Gospel, he asks the first two real questions he asks Sri Ramakrishna. Exactly these two questions. What a perceptive person. M asks to Sri Ramakrishna the first two questions. These are the first 10 last questions. One. Before that, he tried to argue with Ramakrishna about this and that, but leave those things aside. Two questions. One. How do I keep my mind on God? It's a very pointed question. Not even how do I realize God? No, very clear. He knows that I have to keep my mind on God. How do I keep my mind on God? That was the question. And second question is, how do I live in the world? What a perceptive mind. The most important questions are the first and last ones he asks. A famous writer on Buddhism, I think Cornfield probably, he had this beautiful piece of writing. After the ecstasy, the laundry. So after all spirituality and spiritual retreat, meditation and this and that and mindfulness and so on and so forth, the laundry is still there. Life is still there. You have got taxes, mortgages, jobs, problems to deal with. How do you spiritualize that? If you divorce the two, you are going to wipe out religion from your life because those demands are so powerful because reality is connected with that. Connect reality with God and see God. Wherever you find reality, say that reality is God. The name and form is what you see there. I cannot resist giving that funny story. I've told you earlier also. Spiritualizing life. Somebody asked me, what are the strangest places you have given talks? So one very strange place was in airport security. Passing through an airport in India, and just like you have TSA people here, so you have the CISF people, the Central Industrial Security Force. And there was nobody else. I was a transit passenger. And they said to me, they check, they make you stand on a box and then they frisk you. So they said, Swami, in Hindi, kuch bataiye hum logon ko, tell us something, give us a talk. I said, here, now. And he said, yes, why not? And there was no other passenger, so he called the other policemen and policewomen. They stood around me, about 5 or 6 of them. And I gave them a talk. I was thinking, what should I say to them? I stood on that box and I gave them a talk. I said to that gentleman, when you go out from home, leave home early in the morning, do you worship God in some way? This is Uttar Pradesh. So he says, हाँ जी, हनुमान जी को फूल चढ़ाते हैं. I put flowers at the feet of Lord Hanuman and then I come out for my work. And then I said, all right, all these persons passing through this scanner in front of you and you check them, do your job to the best of your ability, politely, calmly, firmly. And every time you check a person and let the person through, you mentally offer one more flower at the feet of Lord Hanuman. He was so delighted with this. His eyes lit up and he said, "Arey wah, din bhar Hanuman ji ka puja." How wonderful. Day-long worship of Hanuman, Lord Hanuman. We can say more about this, but this is the idea, to convert this. Even then, will life go on just as it is? You will see slowly it will not go on just as it is. It will change. Your priorities will change. So the way you do the work, maybe even the nature of the work you do, maybe even the place you work in, those things might change because they might not be in line with your core spiritual seeking anymore. I'll just leave it at that. Can you give the microphone here?
This is a question from Shubham, who has a question on the dream state and deep sleep meditation. Is there any reality in the dream state? Should we listen to the advice of gurus like Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda in dreams, or is it my own self guiding me? Also, one more question. Papaji, a disciple of Raman Maharishi, says that we should go to a deep sleep-like state in meditation, where there is nothing at all, but you tell us to meditate on spiritual texts. Because of so many methods, my method of meditation keeps on changing. Please help.
Okay. First of all, the question of dreams. Now, is there any reality in dream or in deep sleep? Vedanta will say, yes, there is. And the reality not where you would think it is. And not in what you are dreaming about. The reality in the dream state is the dreamer. The person who was lying on the bed and forgotten himself or herself, forgotten that you are dreaming. Only when you forget that, then there is dreaming. Otherwise, it will be what is called lucid dreaming. So when you are aware only of the dream and the constituents of the dream and the persons and the events in the dream, none of those are real as such because they are imagined in the mind of the dreamer. But the dreamer is real. So Vedanta takes a very strict, austere, spare approach to that. You, the dreamer, are real. Vedanta will say, I am not interested in what you are dreaming about, but I am interested in the fact that who is dreaming or what is dreaming. What experienced the dream, not what you dreamt about. That's Vedanta. Many people are sort of confused about that. We expect some kind of esoteric guidance about our dreams, like a counselor, a Freudian therapist who will tell you the meaning of your dreams. Vedanta is not interested in that. Anything that comes and goes, anything that's an object of your experience, anything that is in Sanskrit jada, something that arises in your awareness, not interested in that. Vedanta is interested in the underlying consciousness itself. So that's one point. But more practically, there are many, many instances where some spiritual guidance has been received in dreams. It's true, it's there. Some of the contents of dreams might sometimes be useful in spiritual life. Some, not all. How do I know? First of all, don't give it too much importance. Second, always match it with the teachings of the spiritual masters. Match it. Does it go along with the Gospel of Ramakrishna or the Gita or the Upanishad? Is it in line with the traditional teaching? That's a safety net for you. You must compare it with that. Or is it telling me to do something completely crazy? Then it's not coming from a spiritual source. It might be coming from your own mind. So be careful about the contents of your dream. It's good to be aware, but the attention is always directed to the one who is dreaming. Second, when he says, Papaji said, meditate and go into a state where, like deep sleep. He's right also, because the closest we can understand to samadhi, the closest experience we all have, which we understand, is deep sleep. But samadhi is not deep sleep. Anybody who falls asleep is not in samadhi. So often you see a lot of people in samadhi in Vedanta classes. So most of that is not real samadhi. That's more the other thing, the deep sleep. You see, this is the problem. Vedanta is supposed to induce samadhi. Mind goes up, and so Ramakrishna goes into samadhi. When you listen to Vedanta, when you hear that thou art, you're supposed to go into samadhi and realize I am the one, I'm one with God. But it induces the other kind of, that's the problem. So, yes, deep sleep is a very good paradigm for meditation. When I'm meditating, the closest I can understand to the deepest meditation is in deep sleep, when I'm not aware of anything else at all. Awareness is completely withdrawn. So in that respect, deep sleep is similar to meditation. It's a good example, but it should not be misunderstood. You should not think clearly Papaji was not telling us to fall asleep. Right? So it's a powerful example. How much of my meditation is the deep absorption, deep sleep like absorption. So that's one thing. I do not tell you to meditate on texts, that repeating the text or thinking about the text. No. What I'm actually telling you, what Vedanta is telling you, meditate on the purport of the text. That thou art. When I say meditate on that thou art, I'm not saying you repeat that thou art to yourself all the time. Or I am Brahman, you repeat I am Brahman all the time. One of our senior Swamis, after they got, many years ago, when they became monks, their guru was Swami Gambhirananda ji, the 11th president of the order. So these newly minted monks, they went to him and they said, this is what you have taught us, I am Brahman. That's part of the monastic vows. How many times should we repeat it? Japa. That's what we are used to repeating, you know. Krishna, Krishna, Rama, Rama, whatever you do, repeat a mantra, the divine name, what we did today. Here's the difference between bhakti and jnana. Swami Gambhirananda replied, that is meant for realization, it's not meant for repetition. You are supposed to get it. It's like somebody going to the physics class and saying, okay, we've been taught E is equal to mc squared. Professor, how many times should I repeat it? You're not supposed to repeat it, you're supposed to understand it. You say, no, I believe you, Professor. You're supposed to believe me, I want you to get me. Professor will be insulted if you tell him that I believe you. Okay, I believe you. You're a great guy, you won't be lying to me. No, you're supposed to get it. I am Brahman, that thou art. You're supposed to get it. And then what about meditation? Once you get it, you dwell on what you have got, not on the words as such. The words are pointing to something within you. They are pointing to the real you. When you get it, you've got the real you. Dwell in that. That is Vedantic meditation. The words are an aid. One last point. Technique of meditation, do not keep changing. That's the danger of not having mantra diksha. Guidance from a guru. Otherwise, what has happened, you know? I want spiritual life. Who wants it? The mind wants it. If the mind wants it and wants it independently, it wants something today, it wants something tomorrow, and the third thing day after. And nothing the day after that. And if your mind is the only thing which is deciding, then you are at the mercy of the mind. I want God realization. I want a method of practice. If I go to the guru, and the guru gives me a technique, and I vow to the guru, I will follow this for the rest of my life. Now it is taken out of my, jurisdiction, the limits of the mind. The mind has to obey because I've given a commitment, I shall practice this. It is not appealing to many people in modern age. Oh, I've given up my independence. I am going to think for myself. Fool. You see what you're doing? You're completely identified with the mind and saying that I am this mind. And then therefore I think this mind, don't you see the ego involved there? This mind is superior to all other minds, including the mind of my guru. Hence I shall listen to a mind. Yes, but what mind? I'm listening to only one mind, my mind. Why is your mind better than anybody else's mind? You know why we think that? We think we are the mind. The self in itself has independence. We are truly independent and free. But that independence is mixed up with the mind. And we think the mind has to be independent. This mind has to be independent of everybody else. Keep a little detachment between yourself and your mind. Even be skeptical of your own mind. If you're so good at being skeptical of everything except the mind, be a little skeptical of your own mind also. So, the guru gives you a technique of meditation, take it up, practice it seriously. You can read many things. You can learn many things. You can even try out different things. But the core practice which the Guru gives, this is the beauty of mantra diksha or some kind of initiation by a Guru in any tradition. Any tradition. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of a man who was digging for water. And he dug a little bit and he said, there's no water here. I'll try there. Somebody said, you try there. That's a good spot. He goes and digs there. Within a few minutes, somebody else says, that's a really nice spot. And he goes and starts digging there. At the end of the day, he has tried a dozen different places, nowhere water. But if he had stuck to one place and dug deep enough in that place, probably he would have found water. That's what's happening. Many of these parts, maybe almost all of them, they're genuine spiritual teachings. Practice it, follow it. Take up one and follow it. Any question from the audience? We are running out of time. Please come. There's the microphone, use that. Please tell us your name.
My name is Swapan Sengupta.
Yes.
I'm from India. I would like to put a small question. What is the existence of the universe and how is it related to the spiritual world?
That's a small question. Okay, let's limit it at that. The answer is, of course, in Advaita Vedanta, the existence of the universe is Brahman. It's like this. You're asking, what is the existence of the wave and how is it related to the ocean? Something like that. The existence of the wave is the existence of water. It is water which constitutes the wave. It is wood which constitutes this altar. In fact, there is nothing in the wave other than the water. There is nothing in this altar other than the wood. The substance is the wood here. The substance is water there. The very existence or being of this universe is Brahman, Sat, pure existence. So according to Advaita Vedanta, pure existence is the ultimate spiritual reality. And it is your own nature. When you say that thou art, pure existence you are. That's what Vedanta is saying. What we are experiencing as the universe is that pure existence plus name and form. Sat plus Nama Rupa. That's what we are experiencing. So there's a direct answer to your question, but it's a difficult question, a difficult answer also. But the whole spiritual project of spirituality in Vedanta is conceived of as realizing yourself as that existence underlying the universe. Again, I'm quoting Meister Eckhart. Do you not see how he uses the words, Meister Eckhart? Ground of my soul is the ground of God. The ground means the existence. There is one existence which is that, God, and thou, the individual. And when you realize yourself as that existence, you find yourself one with God. Advaita goes so far as to say this entire universe borrows its existence from you. Not from you, Mr. Swapan Sengupta, but the reality behind this person. The reality is Sat. So that reality is borrowed by all these names and forms. It may sound incredible. Why does it sound incredible? Because we think they are independent existences. I am something separate from them. How are they borrowing existence from me? A good example is the dream example. When we are dreaming, you see people, other people, yourself, buildings, and so on and so forth. Things are happening. But when you wake up, what do you realize? All of them were my mind. True or not? Whatever you see, again, no confidence. Yes, whatever you see in the dream is your own mind. There's no doubt about it. It was generated by your mind. Therefore, the existence of every person in the dream, every building and road and the sky and the planet and the whole universe in the dream, the existence of it depends on your mind because your mind generated it. That's an example. This is an example we are all familiar with. Vedanta goes one step further and says, this world which we are experiencing, there is one existence, consciousness, bliss, which itself is manifesting as this world. So the existence of the universe and the quest of spirituality are one and the same in Advaita Vedanta. And difficult question, but very, very profound and deep question. Thank you. One more question. After this, we'll take one more question from the live audience here, so get ready with your questions. Yes.
This question is from Abani, who is a student from Howrah in India. You often emphasize in your lectures that truth, brahmacharya, ahimsa, and other moral virtues are the uncompromising prerequisites in any spiritual journey. But when disruptive external conditions and lust, greed, etc. distract us from the way, what is one's duty? In one of Swamiji's letters to Mary Hale, he urges her to clear the deck for battle, either bhoga or yoga, achieve happiness or achieve greatness.
Yes.
Given that, for a student like me, what inner qualities should one take into account to make a decision regarding one's way of life, householdership or monasticism? And there is a similar question that comes from Sayantan in Detroit, who says, how can a serious spiritual aspirant who does not have a natural faith in a personal God provide his mind sufficiently strong arguments to counter distractions, provocations, etc., in order to attain perfect chastity in thought, word, and deed?
Yes. The whole thing goes back to, what do I want in life? Yeah. And the core idea should be that I want this thing which is being promised in religion. All religion in different language, different mythology, it promises that there is something where you find the solution to the problems of life. Call it God or Brahman or Allah or Nirvana, whatever you call it. So there is such a thing. Do I want it or not? Truth is most valuable. Internal truth. Do I really want it inside? Now the answer will be usually a mixed answer. All of these questions, they all reflect a mixed answer. He says, I want it, but not too much. I think it was Saint Augustine who prayed, Lord, give me perfect chastity, but not right yet. Not right now. So that clarity is something that will not come immediately. We have to work upon it. And the way to work upon it is to keep on emphasizing the reality of Brahman and the illusory nature of the world, that all meaning and value and happiness are concentrated in spirituality, and what we are seeking outside is a fool's errand. If it does not seem to be a fool's errand, then try it out. Try it out. Try it out intelligently. Sri Ramakrishna once, he said, I had the desire to wear an expensive shawl. And of course, Mathur Babu supplied those things to him. So Mathur Babu bought a very expensive shawl and gave it to him. And Sri Ramakrishna wrapped it around himself and he said, oh my mind, this is called an expensive shawl. Look at it. People wear it and they forget God. They become vain. After some time, he got disgusted with it. He took it off and he threw it on the ground. Then not content with that, he spat upon it. And then he jumped upon it and stomped upon it. And then he was about to set fire to it when Mathur Babu came and rescued the poor shawl. Now that's a lesson to us. Not that you should treat your expensive clothes like that. What it means is, all the experiences we are seeking in life, good. Go into it intelligently, with awareness, and then evaluate. What did I want? What did I get? Keep the Vedantic truth in the background and keep checking back with it. Did they speak the truth about the world? You say, yes, they did. There is one unchanging reality which will give true satisfaction to the heart, to all our aspirations. When you say Ananda, in Satchidananda, we think about it as happiness and bliss, but not just happiness and bliss. All human aspiration, meaning in life, purpose in life, the whole value, all of that, from aesthetics to everything is involved in that Ananda. So the whole culmination, satisfaction of life lies in Ananda, and Vedanta says that Ananda is Brahman. Once you convince yourself of this more and more, it's an ongoing process. The mind will begin to turn that way. Where the mind finds reality, Where the mind finds satisfaction, the mind will turn there. As the mind turns there, the other qualities come by themselves. I'm not telling you something new. It's just the same 4 qualifications of the Vedantic student, Viveka and Vairagya. It's only when Viveka is done like this again and again, the reality of Brahman and the illusoriness and the ephemeral nature of worldly experiences. Look at it. See it as a fact. That's Viveka. As you see it more and more, the Vairagya will come of itself. If you try to forcefully develop Vairagya, it will be a conflict. You know what is the nature of a conflict? I want to give it up and I want it at the same time. Same mind, I want to give it up and I want it. The doctor says, I have to give up the cookies, and mind says, I want the cookies. I genuinely want to give up the cookies and I genuinely want the cookies also. Conflict. So there Viveka helps and dissolves that conflict. When I genuinely want God, one more way, a powerful way. Again, love of God, some kind of bhakti is a great help. Why is it a great help? Even in the path of knowledge. You see, the pull of the world is a pull of the heart. It's not knowledge. I know Brahman is real and I know the world is false. I know that there is quite possibly I am a witness consciousness and so on and so forth. That's at the level of knowledge. But I want is at the level of the heart, of the emotions. I know something, I want something else. I know Brahman is real, the world is an appearance, the heart is not convinced. I want the world. What will work there? More books and Vedanta classes will not work there. No. That's why for Vedanta students, a very strict framework is given, a moral framework. Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadamadi, Shat-sampatti and Mumukshutvam. You have that fencing, then Vedanta will work very well. If you do not have that fencing, then Vedanta is often, it's dissipated. So, where do you get these experiences? Where do you get these qualities? Bhakti works at the level of the heart. Jnana, intelligence, knowledge works at the level of intellect. So, bhakti works at the level of the heart. The nature of bhakti is, I want. What is the nature of desire? I want. What is the nature of bhakti? I want. Only thing is the object of wanting is changed. I want the world is replaced with God. I want God, same I wanting, same passion, same greed, that becomes bhakti then, when it becomes connected to God. The same thing becomes passion and lust and greed when it becomes connected to the world. So bhakti works at the level of the heart, at the level of the desires, and transforms you there. The qualities which you are looking for will come automatically. Bhakti draws it in its wake. All those qualities come automatically. Last question from the live audience. Please come forward.
Swamiji, I'm Jyoti Agarwala.
Yes.
Last week I was at an investment conference, and they were talking about demographics and the future of what we can expect in the next maybe 50 years or more. And one of the speakers invited us to think of this idea that the way we know life today, that you get an education, that you get into some kind of work, productive work, that may all change because this advent of artificial intelligence. And a lot of young people are not finding jobs, college graduates. So what will they do, or what will life look like if the work that we, are supposed to be doing, or we think that we will have a life that we will get, go for a job or get married or do this or do this. What would life look like? Any thoughts on that?
It's a very broad question, but it's a vital question. There are some eternal truths which do not undergo change. Spirituality is about that. But life also undergoes change. The external realities of life undergo change, and never more so than today. I'm reminded again of, I mentioned Peter Drucker earlier. Management Challenges for the 21st Century, one of his lesser known books, but a very interesting book. There he points out that the challenges of our time are unique. You might say every person said it in their time, the challenges of our time are unique. No. If you look back upon history, there really never has been a time like this now, the last 100 years and especially now. The pace of change is so tremendous and so far-reaching and deep. He says, for example, all of our ancestors, say going back to the time of our grandfathers and before that, almost all of us, our ancestors, grandfathers, grandparents and great-grandparents, going back to so many generations, centuries and millennia, they lived where they were born. They lived there, they married there, they had children there, they lived out their lives and they died where they were born. They worked with the professions of their fathers and forefathers, most of them. There was no radical change. Not much. There was, but not much. Not heavily disruptive. They ate the food most people ate at that time for generations, for centuries together. They wore the same dresses, more or less. They had more or less the same kinds of governments. They had more or less the same kinds of implements, technology and tools for centuries and millennia. But today, if you look at it today, in this world, a person is born somewhere, educated somewhere else, works somewhere else, and lives out the rest of his or her life somewhere else. The person not only does not do what his father or mother or great-grandfather, grandmother did, but does something different, very different occupations which did not exist, let alone 100 years ago, did not exist last year. And not only does new things, continuously changes that also. Even up to our fathers, our parents' generations, they mostly did something for the whole of their lives, mostly, and then they retired out of a job in a company or in the government or somewhere. But now young people go from job to job, very different professions, within a matter of years. Where will you live? What will you eat? Whom will you marry? How will you live? What will you do? Your own identity? Politics, gender, all these are open now. There is a tremendous degree of freedom now. Now, what do I say from the point of view of spirituality, especially Vedanta? The importance of spirituality is increased manifold now. Drucker in that book says, wisdom is most important now. Young people, even before they are mature, they have to take decisions now. Earlier decisions were taken. You live, what decision will you take? You live where your grandparents have lived. You do what your family has always done. You eat what people there have eaten. It's just more or less fixed. You didn't have much freedom at all. But now you have freedom across many degrees, many parts of life. And the decisions you take at a young age will influence the rest of your life very powerfully. You do not have infinite flexibility. You can't keep changing your decision and making up for errors later on. You cannot. So wisdom is most important. And this wisdom, he says, even worse, it's not rooted in communities and families, because communities and families are gone. So ultimately, this wisdom has to be rooted in the individual. And that's why spirituality is very important. Where are you at home? The concept of home, Pico Iyer, the famous travel writer, he gave a TED talk on the concept of home. He says, you know what's the largest population now, a group of population are the homeless, not in the sense of being without a home, but they do not have a particular country or place to call there. There are people in this room who have come from different continents, different places, and gathered together. Look at New York itself. At this time, the only root you can find is within yourself. And the only route where you can find roots within yourself is through spirituality. The importance of spirituality is many times more now than it was earlier. There are no more, for many, many people, there are no support structures anymore, except what you can find within yourself. Your home is the spirit, is Brahman. It is strange that the definition of what was a monk, aniketaha, one who has no fixed home, the holy wanderer, is now a definition that applies to large sections of the population of the world. But you must have the monk spirituality. Internally, the monkey must become the monk. The monkey mind must become the monk mind if you are to find happiness. Otherwise, there's no other way. How powerful Vivekananda's insight that the secular and the spiritual are not two different things. There is only one life. He says there is only one life. You cannot have two lives anymore. There is only one life. And that life had better be a spiritual life. You may be a corporate executive, you may be a monk in a monastery, you may be a teacher in the school or a nurse in a hospital. You can certainly and must spiritualize your life. And people are doing it, you know. He doesn't have to preach. You don't have to preach. A person who was nursed in a hospice, terminal care situation, he said that I am amazed at how many people among the caregivers and those who are dying, both sides, how many people have some kind of spiritual practice. So it's so widespread in the society. It's a silent revolution we are not very much aware of. It is widespread. Everybody seeks meaning. Everybody is seeking roots. Everybody is seeking spiritual resources to cope with life. What is behind the growth of positive psychology? Why is it not enough to cure mental illness? Why do we need resilience and sustenance from within positive psychology? The entire range. The popularity of Eastern religions all over the world. Because they offer resources for resilience, for coping with life. So very important question, Jyoti ji, and I hope that conference was successful. Somebody said graduates cannot find jobs because the professor is told, remember what you are teaching them in the classroom will be useless by the time they graduate.
That was Bill Gates' message. He
Bill Gates'
didn't go to college.
Yeah.
Because he thought
Well, he is partially responsible. He changed the world in a way which made it true, a self-fulfilling prophecy. But this is the world we live in. In one sense exciting, another sense terrifying also. In some sense it is a world for an ever younger person. Yes. Very good. Let me chant and then we'll come to a conclusion. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.